He was in tears, and this miracle was beyond anything he had ever imagined. Welcome to Mr. Peter Stories. Dive into a world of captivating tales and unforgettable adventures. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to join our growing community. The fluorescent lights of Memorial Hospital's maternity ward hummed with an ethereal intensity, casting a pale, almost ghostly illumination across Aldrich Harrington's trembling form. He sat compressed into himself, a once impenetrable titan of industry, now reduced to a fragile silhouette of raw, unfiltered emotion. His tailored Brioni suit, a garment that had once symbolized his insurmountable wealth and social status, now hung loosely, wrinkled and forgotten, much like the carefully constructed persona he had meticulously crafted over decades. Beside him, Imogen Lilly's hand, strong yet tender, marked by years of selfless medical service, rested against his, a bridge between two worlds that society had deemed irreconcilable. Her deep mahogany skin, etched with subtle lines that spoke of resilience and compassion, contrasted sharply with Aldrich's pale, almost translucent complexion. Where he embodied generations of inherited privilege, she carried the profound strength of generational survival. The rhythmic beeping of medical monitors created a strange symphony, punctuating the thick silence between them. Each pulse seemed to echo the heartbeats of the three newborns who had just entered the world, a world that would forever be transformed by their mere existence. Aldrich's tears were not the polished, controlled droplets one might expect from a man of his stature. These were raw, primal expressions of something far more complex than simple joy. They were tears of redemption, of profound brokenness being mended, of a lifetime of emotional barrenness suddenly flowering with unexpected abundance. "Triplets," he whispered, the word fracturing in his throat, barely audible yet resounding with an almost seismic emotional impact. His fingers, typically accustomed to signing multi-million-dollar contracts and navigating complex corporate landscapes, now trembled uncontrollably as they intertwined with Imogen's. Her smile was a masterpiece of understanding, part maternal comfort, part warrior's triumph. She had not just delivered babies, she had delivered a miracle that would rewrite the narrative of a man who had been told he was destined for emotional and biological sterility. The memories cascaded through Aldrich's mind like a torrential, unforgiving rain. Memories of his first wife Elena's cruel departure, her venomous words echoing through the cavernous halls of his Manhattan penthouse. "You're broken, incomplete. A billionaire who cannot create life." Those words had been surgical in their precision, cutting through his ego, his sense of self-worth, leaving behind a wasteland of emotional desolation. But Imogen, she was different. Where Elena saw emptiness, Imogen saw potential. Where others perceived limitations, she recognized extraordinary possibility. Their journey had been anything but conventional. A chance encounter during a medical emergency 3 years ago had been their first intersection, a moment where her professional dedication had quite literally saved his life. Not just his physical existence, but something far more profound, his capacity to believe in human connection. A nurse approached, her soft footsteps barely registering against the clinical white linoleum. She carried 3 tiny bundles, each wrapped in soft pastel blankets that seemed to glow with an almost supernatural warmth. "Would you like to hold them?" she asked, her voice a gentle whisper that seemed to understand the monumental nature of this moment. Aldrich's breath caught in his throat. Holding life, creating family, experiencing a form of intimacy he had been told was forever denied to him. The first child, a girl with impossibly delicate features, was placed in his arms. Her eyes, a mesmerizing blend of Imogen's depth and his own haunting intensity, seemed to look not just at him, but through him, as if she could see every broken promise, every wounded memory, and was offering silent redemption. Grace, Imogen murmured, her voice thick with emotion. We'll name her Grace. And in that moment, surrounded by the clinical sterility of the hospital room, something profound and transformative was happening. A billionaire was being reborn. A woman was completing a narrative of love that defied societal boundaries. 3 lives were beginning their extraordinary journey. The story of Aldrich and Imogen was just beginning, a tale that would challenge every preconceived notion of family, love, and human potential. Shattered foundations, the landscape of broken dreams. The story of Aldrich Harrington was not merely a tale of wealth, but an intricate tapestry woven with threads of profound loneliness and unspoken pain. Born into the Harrington dynasty, a family whose financial empire stretched across continents like an invisible network of steel and ambition, he was destined for greatness from the moment of his first breath. Sebastian Harrington, his father, was a titan of industry whose love was measured in investment portfolios and strategic acquisitions rather than moments of genuine connection. Margaret Harrington, his mother, was a delicate porcelain figure who navigated high society with calculated grace, her emotional landscape as meticulously manicured as the English gardens of their Connecticut estate. Young Aldrich learned early that vulnerability was a currency of weakness. By age 7, he understood that emotions were to be managed, controlled, and strategically deployed, never genuinely experienced. His childhood was a series of structured interactions, private tutors, controlled environments, calculated social interactions designed to prepare him for eventual corporate leadership. The Harrington legacy was built on a foundation of emotional repression. Generations of men who viewed sentiment as a form of dangerous instability, who believed that true power resided in the ability to remain perpetually detached. Aldrich was groomed to be the ultimate embodiment of this philosophy, a living testament to controlled ambition. His first experience of genuine emotional complexity came unexpectedly through Elena Rodriguez, a passionate art curator he met during a museum fundraiser in Manhattan. She was everything his carefully constructed world was not. Spontaneous, artistic, filled with an almost dangerous sense of emotional authenticity. Their courtship was a whirlwind that shocked New York's social circles. Elena, with her wild Argentinian spirit and remarkable beauty, seemed to temporarily dismantle Aldrich's meticulously constructed emotional barriers. For the first time, he imagined a life beyond balance sheets and corporate strategies. Their wedding was a spectacle that dominated society columns, a $2 million celebration at the Plaza Hotel that seemed to promise a fairy tale of passion and possibility. But fairy tales, Aldrich would learn, are often more fiction than reality. The first cracks appeared subtly. Elena's desire for children collided violently with Aldrich's medical reality, a genetic condition that rendered traditional conception impossible. Medical tests revealed a devastating truth. Aldrich was sterile, a fact that felt like a personal failure in a family obsessed with legacy and continuation. Elena's transformation was gradual but ruthless. The passionate woman who had once looked at him with unbridled love now viewed him with a coldness that felt like a slow, methodical, emotional assassination. Her conversations became laden with subtle references to lineage, to continuation, to the fundamental human desire for offspring. "A man who cannot create life," she would whisper during moments of particular cruelty, "is barely a man at all." Her words were daggers, precisely aimed to inflict maximum psychological damage, and they succeeded spectacularly. The divorce was as public and dramatic as their wedding. Elena strategically leaked information about Aldrich's medical condition, transforming personal tragedy into a media spectacle. Tabloids painted him as a broken man, a billionaire rendered somehow incomplete by his biological limitations. Wall Street watched. Competitors circled. His professional reputation teetered on the edge of a psychological precipice. It was during this moment of profound vulnerability that Aldrich began to understand the true nature of societal judgment. Wealth could purchase almost anything, except apparently the fundamental human experience of creating life. Depression became his silent companion. Therapy rooms became his confessional. Each session peeled back layers of generational trauma, revealing a man who had been taught that emotional exposure was a form of failure. Little did Aldrich know that fate was preparing a narrative so extraordinary, so transformative, that it would completely redefine his understanding of love, family, and human connection. Enter Imogen Lilly, a woman whose own life story was a testament to resilience, compassion, and the extraordinary power of human spirit. Born in a small community in Louisiana, Imogen's childhood was a stark contrast to Aldrich's world of privilege. Her mother, a single parent working multiple jobs, had instilled in her a philosophy of radical empathy and unwavering strength. Education was her escape route. Nursing became her calling, not just a profession, but a profound mission of healing that extended far beyond physical treatment. Her journey was marked by countless sacrifices, night shifts, additional certifications, moments of exhaustion that would have broken lesser spirits. But Imogen understood something fundamental. Healing was never just about medical intervention, but about human connection. The stage was set. Two lives seemingly worlds apart were about to intersect in a manner that would challenge every preconceived notion of love, family, and human potential. Their first encounter would not be romantic. It would be a moment of pure, unscripted medical intervention that would alter the trajectory of both their lives forever. Fractured Souls, the emotional cartography of pain and redemption. The human heart is a mysterious landscape, terrain more complex and treacherous than any geographical map could ever document. For Aldrich Harrington and Imogen Lilly, their emotional journey was a topography marked by volcanic eruptions of pain, silent valleys of loneliness, and unexpected mountain ranges of unexpected connection. Betrayal, that most exquisite form of emotional violence, had carved deep canyons into Aldrich's psychological terrain. Each memory of Elena was like a tectonic plate shifting, creating earthquakes of remembered humiliation, aftershocks of profound rejection that reverberated through every intimate relationship he would ever attempt. The night Elena left was not dramatic. There were no screaming matches, no theatrical door slammings. Instead, there was a calculated coldness that felt more devastating than any passionate confrontation could have been. She packed her Louis Vuitton luggage with surgical precision, each folded garment a statement of emotional disconnection. "You are incomplete," she had whispered, her words more a clinical diagnosis than a personal accusation. A man without the ability to continue his lineage is essentially a dead end. Those words became internal architecture, constructing invisible walls within Aldrich's sense of self. They were more than mere phrases. They were psychological concrete, solidifying his sense of fundamental brokenness. Imogen's world, by contrast, was built on different foundations. Her mother, Josephine Lilly, was a warrior who had transformed generational poverty into a testament of resilience. A black woman raising a daughter alone in Louisiana's complex social landscape, she understood survival was an art form requiring equal parts tenderness and extraordinary strength. "Baby girl," Josephine would tell young Imogen, "your worth is not determined by what others can take from you, but by what you choose to give." These words were not merely maternal advice, they were philosophical armor, protecting Imogen from the systemic challenges that threatened to define her existence. Each obstacle, financial scarcity, racial prejudice, societal limitations, became a catalyst for her transformation rather than a constraint. Her journey into nursing was not just a career choice, it was a calling, a sacred mission to heal not just bodies, but the profound emotional wounds that medical textbooks could never fully comprehend. The medical profession became her sanctuary, her battlefield, her canvas. Each patient was more than a collection of symptoms. They were human stories, waiting to be understood, respected, transformed. Aldrich's corporate world and Imogen's medical universe existed in seemingly parallel universes, separated by chasms of socio-economic difference, racial complexity, and fundamental life experiences. Their paths would have remained forever unconnected were it not for a moment of extraordinary medical intervention. His cardiac event was not just a physical malfunction, it was a metaphorical implosion of a life built on emotional suppression. Years of stress, of maintaining an impenetrable facade, had created internal pressures that his body could no longer contain. When he was rushed into Memorial Hospital that fateful night, he was more than a patient. He was a broken system, a human being whose emotional architecture had become so rigid that it was literally causing physiological collapse. Imogen was assigned to his case, a twist of fate that would be impossible to predict, yet seemed in retrospect almost divinely orchestrated. Her hands, strong and precise, did more than manage medical protocols. They carried a healing energy that transcended traditional medical practice. Where other nurses saw a wealthy, potentially difficult patient, she saw a human being in profound emotional distress. During those critical hours of medical intervention, something extraordinary happened. Beyond the clinical measurements, the monitored heartbeats, there was a moment of profound human connection. Aldrich, vulnerable in ways he had never allowed himself to be, glimpsed something in Imogen's eyes that he had never experienced: unconditional, human compassion. She did not see his wealth. She did not see his social status. She saw a human being in pain, deserving of dignity, of care, of redemption. Their first genuine conversation happened not in moments of strength, but in the raw, unfiltered space of medical vulnerability. Aldrich, stripped of his corporate armor, revealed fragments of his wounded soul. Imogen listened, not as a medical professional taking notes, but as a human being, bearing witness to another's pain. "I am more than what I cannot do," Aldrich whispered, during one of those morphine-induced moments of brutal honesty. "I am more than my inability to create life." Imogen's response was not verbal. It was a gentle pressure of her hand, a touch that communicated more than words ever could. "You are enough, exactly as you are." Little did they know that this moment, this seemingly ordinary medical interaction, was the first brushstroke in a masterpiece of human connection that would completely redefine both their lives. Their story was just beginning. A story that would challenge every societal expectation, every predetermined narrative about love, family, and human potential. The alchemy of unexpected love. Rebuilding broken spirits. The human heart possesses an extraordinary capacity for regeneration that defies all medical and psychological understanding. For Aldrich Harrington and Imogen Lilly, their journey of healing was not a linear path, but a complex tapestry of vulnerability, courage, and profound transformation. In the months following his critical cardiac event, Aldrich's recovery became more than a physical process. It was a complete deconstruction and reconstruction of his entire emotional infrastructure. The man who had once defined himself through corporate conquests and financial dominance was now learning the most fundamental lesson of human existence. True strength resides in vulnerability. Imogen became more than his nurse. She emerged as a spiritual architect, carefully dismantling the emotional fortresses he had constructed over decades. Her approach was not aggressive or confrontational. Instead, she practiced a form of compassionate intervention that was both subtle and revolutionary. During his rehabilitation, she introduced Aldrich to a world beyond spreadsheets and stock markets. She spoke of her community in Louisiana, of her mother's resilience, of the rich cultural tapestry that had shaped her existence. These stories were not mere conversations. They were bridges connecting two worlds that society had deemed incompatible. Aldrich's corporate colleagues watched with a mixture of confusion and concern. A man who had built his reputation on emotional detachment was now displaying unprecedented levels of vulnerability. Board meetings and investment discussions became secondary to his journey of personal reconstruction. His therapist, Dr. Elena Rodriguez, coincidentally sharing a name with his ex-wife, noted something extraordinary happening. Aldrich was not just recovering, he was transforming. The rigid boundaries that had defined his existence were becoming fluid, permeable. "You've spent your entire life believing that vulnerability is a weakness," Dr. Rodriguez would tell him during their sessions. "But vulnerability is actually the most courageous form of human expression." Those words became a mantra, a philosophical breakthrough that would reshape his entire understanding of human connection. Imogen's approach to his healing was holistic. She understood that medical recovery was not just about physical rehabilitation, but about restoring a sense of human worth. She introduced him to community service projects, to experiences that existed far beyond his privileged bubble. They would spend hours discussing everything from healthcare disparities to community development. Aldrich, who had previously viewed social issues through a purely transactional lens, began to understand systemic challenges as human narratives. His wealth, which had once been a tool of isolation, started becoming a mechanism for genuine social transformation. He began funding community healthcare initiatives, scholarship programs for underprivileged students, creating infrastructures that reflected a newfound understanding of human potential. The irony was not lost on either of them. A man who had been told he was incomplete because he couldn't produce biological children was now creating entire ecosystems of hope and opportunity. Their relationship defied traditional romantic narratives. It was not a passionate Hollywood-style love story. Instead, it was a profound partnership of mutual healing, of two souls recognizing each other's fundamental humanity beyond societal constructs of race, wealth, and social status. Intimacy between them was not just physical. It was an intricate dance of emotional exposure, of gradually lowering carefully constructed defensive mechanisms. Each conversation, each shared moment, became an act of radical trust. Aldrich learned about Imogen's dreams, her desire to create mobile healthcare units for underserved communities, her vision of bringing quality medical care to regions often forgotten by mainstream healthcare systems. His resources became her mission's catalyst, but more importantly, his heart became her most significant project of transformation. They discovered love not through traditional romantic gestures, but through mutual respect, through witnessing each other's most authentic selves. Where society saw differences, racial, economic, cultural, they saw complementary human experiences. Sexual intimacy, when it eventually emerged, was not about physical conquest, but about profound emotional connection. It was a celebration of two souls finding each other in the most unexpected circumstances. Medical science might have declared Aldrich sterile, but he was creating life in ways far more significant than biological reproduction. He was nurturing hope, supporting dreams, transforming entire community ecosystems. Imogen's love became his rehabilitation, not just from his cardiac condition, but from a lifetime of emotional suppression. She taught him that true wealth was not measured in financial portfolios, but in the capacity to love, to be vulnerable, to see beyond societal limitations. Their story was becoming a testament to human potential, a narrative that challenged every preconceived notion about love about healing, about the extraordinary capacity of the human spirit to transcend seemingly insurmountable barriers. The world would soon witness a love story that would redefine understanding of connection, of family, of human potential. And their greatest chapter was yet to be written. The extraordinary convergence, when miracles transcend. Biology parenthood is not a biological equation, but a profound spiritual mathematics of love, commitment, and extraordinary human connection. For Aldrich Harrington and Imogen Lilly, the journey to becoming parents would challenge every conventional narrative about family, fertility, and human potential. Medical science had declared Aldrich's biological path to parenthood closed, a definitive statement that felt like a life sentence of emotional incompleteness. But the universe operates on algorithms far more complex than clinical diagnoses, weaving narratives that defy rational explanation. Imogen's body carried its own complex story. Years of healthcare service, of witnessing human suffering and resilience, had shaped her understanding of family beyond traditional biological constraints. She understood that parenthood was not about genetic transmission, but about the profound art of nurturing human potential. Their conversations about children were not desperate or mourning. They were philosophical explorations, discussions that transformed potential loss into extraordinary possibility. Where others might have seen limitation, they saw opportunity for radical reimagining. "We will create family," Imogen would say, her voice a blend of determination and spiritual conviction. Not through biological reproduction, but through the most profound act of love, choosing to nurture lives that need us. Adoption became their initial consideration, but their approach was not a conventional checklist-driven process. They saw it as a sacred responsibility, a commitment to transforming lives, not just acquiring children. They began volunteering with community programs, working with children from challenging backgrounds. Each interaction was a research, a spiritual exploration of parental potential. Aldrich, the man once deemed incomplete by societal standards, discovered a nurturing capacity that defied every previous definition of masculinity. Their first foster child, Marcus, came with a history of trauma. A 12-year-old African-American boy who had navigated through a complex foster care system, he carried emotional scars that medical interventions could never fully heal. The first night Marcus arrived in their home was a moment of profound transformation. Aldrich, whose previous understanding of parenting had been filtered through generational wealth and distant emotional landscapes, found himself learning the most intricate language of human connection. He would sit with Marcus, not as a wealthy benefactor, but as a student of human resilience. They would discuss everything from basketball strategies to complex emotional landscapes, creating a bond that transcended traditional parent-child narratives. Imogen watched this transformation with a mixture of professional observation and deep maternal pride. She understood that healing was not about erasing trauma, but about creating safe spaces for profound emotional reconstruction. Their home became a sanctuary of healing, not just for Marcus, but for Aldrich himself. Each moment of parental vulnerability was a layer of his own emotional reconstruction, dismantling generations of suppressed feeling. The medical community watched their journey with a combination of professional curiosity and personal inspiration. Here was a narrative that defied every clinical prediction, every societal expectation. Marcus's integration into their life was not smooth. There were moments of profound challenge, of navigating complex emotional territories. Therapy became a regular part of their family language, not as a medical intervention, but as a tool of mutual understanding. Aldrich's wealth, which had once been a tool of personal isolation, now became a mechanism of extraordinary transformation. He established educational scholarships, created community support systems, transformed his understanding of social responsibility. Their love story was becoming a blueprint for a new understanding of family, not defined by biological constraints, but by the extraordinary capacity of human hearts to expand, to heal, to create belonging. The universe, it seemed, was preparing them for an even more extraordinary chapter. Imogen's medical work had always been about more than clinical interventions. She understood pregnancy and fertility as complex, miraculous processes that extended far beyond biological mechanics. When she discovered she was pregnant, the moment was not dramatic. It was a quiet, almost spiritual revelation that seemed to emerge from the very essence of their profound connection. Medical professionals were stunned. Aldrich's previous medical records, his diagnosed sterility, made this pregnancy statistically improbable. Yet here was a miracle that seemed to emerge from the very depths of their emotional connection. Triplets. 3 lives emerging from a love story that had already defied every societal expectation. The medical team described it as a spontaneous, unexplained fertility event. But Aldrich and Imogen understood it differently. This was not just a biological miracle, but a spiritual testament to the extraordinary power of human connection. Their journey was rewriting every narrative about love, about family, about human potential, and they were just beginning. The metamorphosis, rewriting the covenant of belonging family, is not a biological contract, but a living, breathing ecosystem of love, choice, and profound commitment. For Aldrich Harrington and Imogen Lilly, their journey of familial transformation would become a revolutionary narrative that challenged every preconceived notion of parenthood, belonging, and human potential. The arrival of the triplets, Grace, Hope, and Ethan, was more than a biological event. It was a seismic spiritual occurrence that would reshape not just their personal landscape, but challenge broader societal understanding of family dynamics. Grace, with her penetrating eyes that seemed to hold ancestral wisdom, carried the resilience of Imogen's lineage. Her gaze spoke of generations of black women who had survived, transformed, and ultimately thrived against extraordinary systemic challenges. Hope, the most delicate of the trio, embodied the miraculous nature of their journey. Her very existence was a testament to the inexplicable magic that occurs when human hearts align with universal possibilities. Ethan, the lone male child, carried the complex genetic heritage of both Aldrich's intellectual intensity and Imogen's compassionate spirit. From his first moments, he seemed destined to bridge worlds. Their home in New Orleans became more than a residence. It transformed into a living laboratory of radical love, a space where societal boundaries dissolved and human potential was constantly reimagined. Marcus, their first son through foster care, now became an integral part of this extraordinary family ecosystem. His role was not diminished by the biological children's arrival, but expanded into a profound brotherhood that transcended traditional sibling narratives. Aldrich's transformation was perhaps the most profound. The man who had once defined himself through corporate conquests now found his greatest achievement in the most delicate acts of parental nurturing. Midnight feedings became sacred rituals. Diaper changes were not chores, but moments of intimate connection. The billionaire who had once negotiated international contracts now negotiated the complex emotional landscapes of early childhood with the same strategic brilliance he had once applied to business. Imogen's medical background provided a holistic approach to parenting that went far beyond traditional methodologies. She understood child-rearing as a complex process of emotional architecture, of creating safe spaces for individual human potential to emerge. Their parenting philosophy rejected every conventional model. They were not interested in creating carbon copies of themselves, but in nurturing independent spirits who could navigate complex world realities. Educational approaches were revolutionary. Traditional schooling was supplemented with immersive learning experiences. The children were not just taught facts, but encouraged to understand systemic complexities, to question, to imagine. Their home became a sanctuary of intellectual and emotional exploration. Dinner conversations were not simple exchanges, but complex dialogues that challenged each family member's understanding of the world. Aldrich's wealth was no longer a private resource, but a community tool. Scholarship programs, healthcare, initiatives, educational support systems emerged from their family's commitment to broader social transformation. The triplets' early years became a profound case study in radical parental love. Where society might have seen an interracial family with adopted and biological children as a potential source of complexity, they created a harmonious ecosystem of belonging. Marcus's integration into this new family dynamic was particularly beautiful. He was not a secondary character in their narrative, but a fundamental architect of their collective journey. Therapeutic approaches were continuous and holistic. Family counseling was not a reactive measure, but a proactive tool of emotional maintenance and collective growth. Their story began attracting national attention. Documentaries, academic research, social studies emerged, documenting their extraordinary family model. Universities started examining their approach as a potential blueprint for reimagining family structures in a complex, globally interconnected world. The children were raised with a profound understanding of their unique heritage. Discussions about race, privilege, systemic challenges were not avoided, but explored with nuanced, age-appropriate complexity. Aldrich's past of emotional suppression was systematically dismantled. Each interaction with his children became a moment of personal healing, of understanding masculinity beyond traditional restrictive models. Imogen's ancestral wisdom became a living curriculum. Stories of resilience, of survival, of transformation were not historical narratives, but living, breathing lessons of human potential. Their home was multilingual, multicultural, a microcosm of the global potential that exists when human hearts remain open, curious, and fundamentally compassionate. The medical community continued to be fascinated by Imogen's unexplained pregnancy. Her body had seemingly defied every clinical prediction, creating life in a manner that challenged rational understanding. But for Aldrich and Imogen, this was not a medical miracle. It was a spiritual testament to the extraordinary power of human connection, of love that transcends biological limitations. Their family was not just raising children. They were cultivating future global citizens, individuals capable of seeing beyond artificial boundaries of race, class, and conventional understanding. And their journey was just beginning. Architects of change, reimagining social possibility. The Harrington Lilly family was never intended to be a passive social experiment. They were active architects of profound societal transformation, their very existence a living blueprint, challenging systemic limitations and reimagining human potential. Aldrich's wealth, once a tool of personal isolation, became a powerful mechanism of systemic change. He redirected corporate strategies towards genuine social impact, creating infrastructure that supported marginalized communities with the same strategic brilliance he once applied to financial markets. Educational initiatives emerged as their primary vehicle of transformation. The Harrington Lilly Foundation established scholarship programs that did more than provide financial support. They created comprehensive ecosystems of opportunity, understanding that true empowerment requires holistic intervention. Their approach was revolutionary. Where traditional philanthropic models offered temporary relief, they designed sustainable pathways of genuine social mobility. Scholarships were accompanied by mentorship programs, mental health support, and continuous community engagement. Marcus, their first adopted son, became a pivotal leader in these initiatives. His personal journey of transformation made him an authentic voice for systemic change. By age 25, He was designing educational programs that addressed the complex intersections of race, economic disparity, and individual potential. The triplets, Grace, Hope, and Ethan, were being raised not just as children, but as potential global changemakers. Their education transcended traditional academic boundaries. They learned multiple languages, studied complex social systems, and were encouraged to view challenges as opportunities for innovative solutions. Imogen's medical background transformed their approach to community health. Mobile medical units became a signature project of their foundation, bringing quality healthcare to underserved communities across Louisiana and beyond. Their family gatherings were not just personal reunions, but strategic planning sessions. Conversations seamlessly moved between personal experiences and broader societal challenges, creating a dynamic environment of continuous learning and social innovation. Academic institutions began studying their family model. Sociologists, psychologists, and educational researchers saw them as a living case study of potential social reconstruction. Alderic's corporate networks, once a closed ecosystem of privileged interactions, became channels of genuine social dialogue. He introduced diversity programs, mentorship initiatives, and systemic approaches to corporate social responsibility that went far beyond traditional corporate social responsibility models. Their home became a sanctuary of intellectual and social innovation. Young leaders, activists, researchers would gather, creating a vibrant ecosystem of potential transformation. The media narrative around their family evolved. Initial curiosity about their unconventional love story transformed into serious examination of their broader social impact. Their children were not just raised to succeed individually, but to understand their privilege as a profound responsibility. Each was encouraged to develop unique capabilities that could address specific societal challenges. Grace emerged as a public health innovator, developing technological solutions for community healthcare challenges. Hope became an educational policy researcher, creating frameworks for more inclusive learning environments. Ethan focused on technological innovations that could bridge economic disparities. Marcus's leadership in their foundation became a powerful testament to the potential of supportive, transformative family structures. His work in educational policy directly challenged systemic barriers that had historically limited opportunities for marginalized communities. Imogen and Aldrich were no longer just parents. They were social architects, creating living models of what was possible when love transcended traditional boundaries. Their story was never about personal achievement. It was a continuous, evolving blueprint of human potential, a narrative that suggested radical love could be the most powerful instrument of social transformation. And they were just beginning to understand the full magnitude of their journey. The infinite ripple. When love becomes immortal, time is not a linear progression, but a complex tapestry of moments, connections, and profound human experiences. For Aldrich Harrington and Imogen Lilly, their love story was never confined to individual lifetimes, but became a living, breathing legacy that would continue to transform generations long after their physical presence had dissolved into memory. As they entered their later years, their impact was not measured in material achievements, but in the lives they had touched, the systems they had reimagined, the hope they had cultivated. Aldrich, once a symbol of corporate detachment, had become a global icon of compassionate leadership. His silver hair and profound eyes carried stories of transformation, a living testament to the possibility of personal reinvention. Imogen's spirit remained undiminished by age. Her hands, which had healed countless bodies and souls, now held the hands of grandchildren and great-grandchildren, a lineage not defined by biological constraints, but by an extraordinary capacity for love. Their children, Marcus, Grace, Hope, and Ethan, had become global changemakers, each carrying forward the revolutionary spirit of their parents' extraordinary journey. Marcus had transformed educational policy, creating systemic pathways for marginalized youth. His work ensured that thousands of children who might have been forgotten would now have opportunities to pursue their dreams. Grace had revolutionized community healthcare, developing technological solutions that brought medical support to the most remote and underserved communities. Her innovations saved countless lives, extending her mother's medical compassion into technological realms. Hope had become an influential educational researcher, challenging and redesigning learning systems to be more inclusive, more human-centered. Her work ensured that education became a tool of empowerment rather than a mechanism of limitation. Ethan focused on technological innovations that bridged economic disparities, creating platforms that provided economic opportunities for communities traditionally excluded from technological advancement. The Harrington Lilly Foundation had grown from a personal initiative to a global movement. It was no longer just a philanthropic organization, but a living ecosystem of social transformation. Their love story had become a philosophical blueprint, studied in universities, discussed in leadership conferences, referenced as a radical model of human potential. On their 50th wedding anniversary, surrounded by 4 generations of their extraordinary family, Aldrich and Imogen reflected on their journey. "We were never just about creating children," Imogen would say, her eyes holding decades of wisdom. "We were about creating possibility." Aldrich would squeeze her hand, a gesture that still carried the same profound connection it had 50 years earlier. "We didn't just change our lives," he would respond. "We reimagined what love could be." Their home in New Orleans remained a sanctuary of continuous learning. Family gatherings were not mere reunions, but strategic planning sessions, where multiple generations would discuss global challenges and collaborative solutions. The medical mystery of Imogen's unexpected pregnancy with the triplets remained unexplained. Scientists continued to study their case, recognizing that some miracles exist beyond clinical understanding. Their love had transcended every societal boundary, racial, economic, biological. They had created a family that was a living argument against every limiting societal narrative. As their physical strength gradually diminished, their spiritual influence continued to expand. Each grandchild, each community member they had touched, carried forward their revolutionary spirit. In their final years, they were not just remembered as a couple, but recognized as social architects who had fundamentally reimagined human connection. When Aldrich passed first, Imogen's grief was profound but not destructive. She understood that their connection transcended physical existence. Their love had created ecosystems of transformation that would continue long after their individual stories concluded. Her last words, spoken to their children and grandchildren, captured the essence of their extraordinary journey. "Love is not a limitation. Love is the most powerful revolutionary act. It can heal, it can transform, it can create entire worlds of possibility." And in those words, their legacy continued. Infinite, unconfined, eternally transformative. The story of Aldrich and Imogen was never just their own. It belonged to everyone who would dare to believe that love could overcome every human-made boundary. Their journey was a beacon, a living testament that true connection knows no limitations. The lesson of love beyond blood. A story for those without children or who have lost them life, often takes unexpected turns, leaving us to reconcile dreams unfulfilled or losses that feel insurmountable. For those who longed for children but never had them, or for those who experienced the profound pain of losing a child, the void can seem unbearable, a silence where joy and laughter were once imagined or lived. Yet, Aldrich and Imogen's story offers a beacon of hope and a transformative perspective. Parenthood and love are not confined to biology. A legacy is not defined by having children. It is shaped by the love and impact you create in the lives of others. This is a story of redemption, resilience, and the extraordinary power of love that extends beyond societal definitions of family. It teaches us that even in the absence of children, whether by circumstance or loss, life can be filled with purpose, connection, and a profound legacy of care and compassion. Key lessons for those without children. 1. Parenthood is not limited to biology. Aldrich's journey began with the belief that his inability to father children rendered him incomplete. His sterile diagnosis, compounded by societal expectations, convinced him that he had no role in the world of parenthood. Yet, Imogen helped him realize that parenting is not about passing on genes. It is about nurturing, protecting, and guiding others toward their full potential. Lesson: you don't have to give birth or father a child to be a parent. You can be a mentor, a guide, a teacher, or a friend who shapes someone else's life. Your ability to nurture and inspire makes you a parent in the truest sense. 2. Love creates legacy. For those who have lost a child, grief can feel like an endless emptiness. But Aldrich and Imogen's story reminds us that the love you gave to your child is never wasted, that love becomes a seed, planting hope and inspiration in the hearts of others who come into your life. Marcus, the foster son Aldrich and Imogen embraced, carried their love forward, not as a replacement for what they had lost, but as a new beginning. Lesson: the love you gave to a child, whether living or departed, ripples outward. It influences others and creates a legacy of kindness, resilience, and hope that transcends time. 3. Healing comes through connection. The pain of longing for a child or mourning one lost can feel isolating. Aldrich, after his wife Elena left him, believed he was destined to live in emotional desolation. But meeting Imogen changed everything. Together, they built a family, not just of biological children, but of foster children and the communities they helped. Their healing came through connection, offering love to others who needed it most. Lesson: pain can become purpose when you channel it into love and connection. Helping others through fostering, mentoring, or volunteering can transform grief into healing and leave an indelible mark on the world. 4. Purpose redefines. Family Aldrich and Imogen's family grew beyond traditional boundaries. They fostered Marcus, adopted children, and eventually welcomed biological triplets. But their family's true strength lay in their commitment to shaping lives beyond their own home. They poured their resources into creating scholarships, building community healthcare programs, and mentoring others. Their family became a symbol of inclusion, love, and transformation. Lesson: family is not defined by who shares your name or your blood, but by whom you choose to nurture and love. You can build family through the connections you create with friends, mentees, colleagues, or even strangers whose lives you touch. 5. Your story is still being written. Aldrich believed his story was over when his wife left him, branding him incomplete. But life had other plans. The miraculous arrival of triplets later in his life wasn't just a biological marvel, it was a metaphor for how life can bring unexpected blessings when you least expect them. His foster son Marcus, whom he once saw as a symbol of his own failure, became a pivotal part of his legacy, showing that family and love come in many forms. Lesson: even if your path to parenthood hasn't unfolded as you imagined, your story is far from over. Life has a way of surprising us with new opportunities for connection and purpose. Embrace the possibility that the best chapters may still lie ahead. For those who have lost children, the loss of a child is an unparalleled grief. It can feel like the end of a journey, a wound too deep to ever fully heal. But Imogen and Aldrich's story reminds us that grief, while permanent, doesn't have to be the end of your legacy. The love you gave to your child lives on, in your memories, in your actions, and in the lives you touch moving forward. 1. Honor their memory through purpose. Imogen often spoke of how her mother taught her that the best way to honor those we lose is to carry their spirit forward. You can honor the memory of a child by becoming a force for good in the world, supporting causes they cared about, helping others who face similar losses, or simply living a life that celebrates their existence. 2. Love transforms pain. When Aldrich and Imogen fostered Marcus, it wasn't about replacing the children they couldn't or hadn't yet had. It was about recognizing that their capacity to love could still transform lives. For those grieving the loss of a child, this is a powerful reminder. The love you carry can still make an extraordinary difference, even in the face of loss. 3. Their legacy lives in you. Your child's life, however brief, has already left a mark on the world through you. Every act of kindness you perform, every dream you nurture, and every life you touch becomes part of their legacy. A call to action. Transform your pain into possibility. Foster hope. Consider fostering a child or mentoring someone in need. Your guidance could change their life and yours. Build connections. Volunteer with organizations that support children, families, or causes close to your heart. Create a legacy. Invest your time, energy, or resources into initiatives that reflect the love you carry. Scholarships, community programs, or small acts of kindness can have an immeasurable impact. A final reflection. Aldrich and Imogen's story teaches us that family is not about who we create, but about the love we give. It reminds us that even in loss, we can find purpose. Even in absence, we can build connection. And even in grief, we can create a legacy that transcends time. Whether you have children, lost them, or never had them, your ability to nurture and transform lives remains limitless. You are not defined by what you lack, but by what you give. And remember, your story is still being written. Here's a heartfelt message for readers, a letter to our beloved readers. In the vast landscape of human stories, some narratives transcend mere words. They become living, breathing testaments to the extraordinary potential of the human heart. The journey of Aldrich and Imogen is more than a story. It is a promise that love can emerge from the most unexpected places, that family is not defined by biology, but by the depth of human connection. We invite you to see yourself in this narrative, not as a passive observer, but as an active participant in a larger story of human potential. Each of us carries within us the capacity to transform pain into possibility, to turn limitation into liberation. This story whispers a fundamental truth. Your circumstances do not define you. Your capacity to love, to grow, to reimagine, that is your true legacy. Join our storytelling family. Become a storyteller of hope. Subscribe to our journey, and let's continue writing stories that challenge, inspire, and transform. Follow us across all platforms, where love knows no boundaries, where every story is a revolution waiting to unfold.